I'm going to go ahead and call the meeting to order. It's called 6:59. We were committed early. I'll do roll call since Christie is here. President Tamara.
Yes.
Giovanna.
Here.
Jim.
Here.
Jeff.
Yes.
Randy.
Here.
Todd. Here. Everyone's here. We have a quorum. Let's all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you everyone for being here. I'll entertain a motion and a second for the approval of the agenda. Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Tamara. Motion and a second. All in favor? Second. We have some recognitions.
We do. Mr. Salmon, would you like to go first?
Sure.
Well, actually, have you guys come up over here since we've got such a full house?
Way over there?
Yeah.
All right, guys, come on down. One of my favorite parts of my job is student recognition. Each year, OGHS administers the preliminary SAT to any interested juniors. The score that they earn on that test also enters them into consideration for a National Merit Scholarship. This year, Jacob Backus and Matthew Gorsline, the scores that they earned placed them into National Merit recognition. First of all, Matthew Gorsline is recognized as a commended student. His score places him among the top 50,000 seniors throughout the United States. So while he won't continue in the scholarship competition, he is commended as one of the top students. Jacob Backus' score actually qualifies him as a semifinalist in the National Merit Scholarship competition. So he's in the top 16,000 students across the United States. So now, and I feel that you probably have already completed the application, if I know Jacob the way I think I do. So he has to complete a well-developed application through National Merit Scholarship Corporation. That will enter him into the competition. At the end of the competition, about half of the semifinalists across the United States will earn a scholarship. So around 8,000 students. Money for National Merit through the United States last year was $28 million that they gave in scholarships. So very high praise for both of these young men as far as taking the PSAT and setting themselves apart with the score that they've earned. So a round of applause for both of them. Absolutely. I feel sort of inferior. I don't know that the PSAT was even a thing when I was in school, but I definitely know I did not take it. Since 2015, OGHS has only had 3 students who reached this particular level. So Jacob and Matthew, you placed yourself in an elite category at OGHS. So congratulations and job well done. Did you get a picture of them? Awesome.
Great job, guys. Good job, good job.
All right, Mr. Webster, do you want to come on up with Dave? I'll read what I have and what you actually know what I do.
Okay.
All right. So Dave Williams is in our maintenance department, and he just completed his 3-year coursework recently and was certified as the Missouri School Facility Manager at the Missouri School Plant Managers Association. That's a mouthful.
Yes.
Will you explain a little bit of what that entails?
About 2012-13, the Missouri School Plant Managers Association started this program, and they acquired, I don't know if accreditation's a word, but anyways, it's blessed by DESE as well, and so they're endorsed, that's the word I'm looking for, endorsed by DESE. And it entails, and I apologize that I can't remember, I don't have it memorized, but there's 7 core modules that are involved, and the overview of those are custodial operations, building systems, environmental health and safety, maintenance and operations, facility life cycle and budgeting, leadership, and emergency management, school safety and security. And then there's a bunch of coursework under each one of those headings. And so Dave showed an interest in wanting to pursue that, and I was fortunate enough, I was in the inaugural class back in 2016. And he's got through the program with flying colors, and we're really proud of him that he wanted to continue his education, that he can bring more good to the Oak Grove School District.
And just this past week was the conference that they went to where he was recognized, one of 49 in the state of Missouri who finished this certification this year. So we're proud of you. We're glad that you're so dedicated. We appreciate all you do for Oak Grove.
And hopefully we'll be back in about a year with another recognition. Ashley Carver, one of our night shift custodians, is completing the coursework as well and should finish a year from now.
Good job. We've got one more recognition. Marianne, coming in, would you mind coming on up? One thing you'll learn about our staff members is they don't like to be recognized. So I had to do some asking and some begging. But recently, last year, our yearbook was nominated and received the Silver National Yearbook Program of Excellence criteria. And so what that entails is the yearbook is given based off of extraordinary efforts that go into creating a yearbook and making it accessible for all students. They look at creating a meaningful yearbook for students, putting yearbooks in the majority of students' hands, and an effective project management for the production of the yearbook. So Mrs. Cunningham and her staff, all of her students, most of them graduated last year, but they did get this honor, and we're proud of them to have Jostens, it's sponsored by Jostens, and the Silver Yearbook Program of Excellence. Do you have anything you'd like to share about what that program was, or your program at all?
Well, just to let you know that we had 96% sales. We only have to have, to earn it, you only have to have 70% of your student body. So we had 96%. And then for 3 times the coverage, you're supposed to have at least 60% of your student body in the book 3 times or more. And we had 76%. So we were pretty high up on that.
Awesome. And how long have you been doing the yearbook? All of your career?
Yes.
Has it been all of your career? That's awesome. Awesome. You've produced a lot of really effective, really memorable yearbooks.
This is the first time we've earned silver. We have earned the bronze for other books. We earned the bronze last year, the year before that, and then this one's silver. And the bronze we've earned 3 times. So this is the first one.
First time. Awesome. Well, please send your congratulations to your staff, and we're excited. Thank you. A little bit of pressure for the staff to earn the gold.
So Emily gets a certificate as well.
Thank you.
Very cool. Thanks for coming. Appreciate it.
That's awesome.
Okay. Good.
We're good.
Move on to the consent agenda. Entertain a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda.
So moved.
Thank
She
you.
recognized you. You don't want to win it too. It's not in school.
Something like that, yeah.
I have a motion to approve the consent agenda. Is there a second? Tim.
I'll second.
Okay, Tim. I have a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda. All in favor? That's everyone. Thank you. We have some policy updates.
Correct. So generally, when we do a policy update, we'll do a 3-read, but this one is more of an emergency policy update, just in an error that was found. So last spring, board voted and approved our the vacation PDO use of time, and what those days look like and how that's incorporated. So we just need to update these 2 policies in order to take the language of the vacation time out and just change that all to the paid time off policies. So we're looking at policy Gdpa and Gcpa.
When you remove that vacation, does it still keep the request, like how to request and the time frame for requesting in there?
So it'll just be revert back to
Around
PTO policy. Mhm.
Okay.
entertain a motion to approve the board policy update to GDBDA and GCBDA and rescind the previous GDBDA.
Well said. I'll make that.
We're rescinding both policies.
Yeah.
And then we're approving the updated policy.
Motion and a second. All in favor? Okay, so that was the rescind, okay. That was to rescind. So now we're going to do
We can do them together,
Okay,
as long as the motion is for both.
okay. So we need a motion for both.
Correct.
Okay, so that was just rescind, I apologize. Now we need approval to GDBDA and GCBDA. Okay, yeah,
Yep.
good that one.
So the first motion was for both
first
policies to
motion- Rescind both.
rescind.
First
Okay.
motion was to rescind both, yeah. The second motion will be to approve both.
I'll make the motion to approve the updated policies.
Thank you, Randy. For a second?
I will second.
Thank you, Ken. Motion and second, all in favor? 7-1.
Got you busy without secretary.
Yeah, yeah. This is great. Okay, I think we're on to the prepayment of Series 2016.
So we're in a good situation financially to look at some long-term planning and investment financially. If we make a payment March 1st to go ahead and pay off $815,000 of prepayment from our 2016 general obligation bonds, we'll save $81,800 over the term of that bond in interest rates. And at the beginning of the year, we made a pretty big transfer from Fund 1. And so we've got the funds to be able to do that. And what it does is it allows us and puts us in a situation to have $12 million bonding capacity if we wanted to run a bond issue this April. And if we don't run one this April, we wait till November, or if we August or November or next April, that bonding capacity will just grow. So it just puts us in a good situation to do some more facility projects. I know we didn't get to finish in this last bond, but, and even all in all, if we wanted to grow that bonding capacity, it still saves us $81,800 in interest.
And I greatly appreciate you researching that and save the district money.
Any other questions, comments? I entertain a motion to approve the prepayment of Series 2016 general obligation bonds.
I'll make that motion.
Thank you, Karen.
I'll second.
Thank you, Lorna. A motion and a second. All in favor? 7-1. And we have participation in the state career ladder program.
Correct. So last month I brought to you just kind of the financials to look at if we were to participate in the state career ladder program, what that would cost the district. And then we kind of had a discussion on is there interest in this. So I did reach out and did a survey. 102 staff responded. 96% of them said yes, they were interested. I asked them what stages they would be on just to kind of make sure I had the temperature correct, because there's 3 stages in this program. And we've got 82% of them are in stage 3, which is the 55 years of teaching, 100 hours of workload, and $5,000 stipend. We've got 9.8% of our staff were at, about almost 10% of staff were in stage 2, completing 3 years of teaching, 75 hours of outside of contract work, earning $3,000 for that stipend. And the remainder, about 10%, was in stage 1, which is 2 years of teaching completed, 50 hours of outside work to earn $1,500. So this is a state grant match, and one of the big things is, obviously the state, we're looking at teacher retention and how we can pay our teachers more. The positive side is anytime we can take some money from the state to participate in the program to give our teachers more, it's beneficial. The downside is to participate in this, we have to ask them to do more. So I did survey too, asking them what some of the activities would be that they'd be interested. Desi's provided some guidance on what is accepted, what isn't accepted, and what that might look like. But I was really excited to see the variety of things that our teachers had said that they were interested in. A large portion tied to curriculum nights, enrichment nights, tutoring programs, parent education support. There was a lot of some parent education outreach things, so there was a lot of some really good ideas that were just initially given by teachers of some things that they might be thinking about doing. So the deadline to DESE is to apply for this grant to secure your district dollars is Friday. So here we are. So what the board is approving is essentially this saying that we want to participate in, and we're going to meet their guidelines. So this document is their guidelines. From there, we'll have to develop a district team. It requires a board member, it requires administrator, it requires some staff, and decide. There's that napkin.
Oh, no,
Decide what we want that to look like. Do we want a certain percent of the hours to be directly tied to instruction? What are the parameters that we want to have within there, and how's that going to look? Because the teachers are going to have to apply, they're going to have to log their hours, and the hours are going to have to come back for us to oversee. There's quite a bit of administrative work, and administrators aren't allowed to participate in this. So, but we'll do that and hopefully turn around quickly, because teachers, we want them to get going. They will be able to use any hours they may have already secured over the summer. So if they did any of their own professional growth, professional development, anything online, any books that they've read, as long as they have an opportunity to share with another staff member. So that's kind of in a nutshell what the program from the state's going to look like. We're going to have to kind of create our own parameters as a district of what our expectations are to tie to the hours learned.
Do you have to do the parameters before Friday, or just submit
No.
it? You just have to.
You just have to have board approval and submit this plan. And then it also puts in the number of staff and what your district dollars to the state would be, and ours is $280,000 is what it's going to cost the district for us to participate in this program. It's 60% state funded, 40% district funded, depending on their $5,000, whatever tier they are in stage 1, 2, or 3. It's the $1,500, $3,000, or $5,000 staff can earn, certified staff.
Well, I am 100% all in favor of anything we can do to increase our salary. I want to go on record as saying I'm thoroughly disgusted that the state of Missouri, the legislature, could not fund this completely, and that local districts are after doing that. And then in the same sentence talk about tax cuts, which will benefit the very wealthy and not affect very many people, and when we're 50th dead last in the nation in public school funding. So that's my political statement for the night. But I'm all for this, and I'd make the motion we approve this. Our teachers deserve everything we can do for them.
I'll second that one.
I have a motion and a second. Any other questions or comments? All in favor? That's everything. Some discussion items.
We do. We've got Ms. Weiler or Ms. Rainey, who are going to give a presentation on our K-5 reading program evaluation.
Okay, I'm actually going to get started. Mrs. Rainey's going to be my technician in the back, and then we're going to switch, and I'll take over, and she'll talk a little bit to you guys too. So we're here today to kind of go through the K-5 literacy program. We're going to talk about our curriculum, our resources that we use, and kind of legislative mandates that are out and about now that kind of drive both of those and why we are doing what we're doing. So a little bit about, do you want to go to the actual slideshow? It'll just keep it focused. All right, I'm just going to start off talking a little bit about the science behind reading. The science of reading actually drives why we choose to do what we do, especially at the K-5 level with reading. Just a little bit of a chemistry lesson maybe for you, more biology lesson, I guess. So the left side of your hemisphere of your brain is where you is active when you are reading. So for a normal reader, it's the left side that is activated when learning how to read and while reading. So for when a student is struggling to read, research has shown that it's usually because the right side of their hemisphere is what's active, not the left side. So that's why it's a slow transition, because you have to get it to the left side. So it takes longer, which causes disfluency and struggling learning those concepts because it has to move from one side to the left. So all of our curriculum and the resources that we have are based on this science to know what can we do to help it become easier for students to transition from the right side to the left side. So with the science of reading, research has shown that there's really 5 big pillars to teaching students how to read. At my age level, which are considered emergent readers, phonemic awareness and phonics are the 2 biggest components of our day at the primary. We're there for 7 hours, but the majority of our hours are spent behind literacy, and the majority of our hours, our minutes, are with these 2 components. Also, the 3 other very still important components, but are really more secure in the elementary building, are building fluency, obviously teaching those comprehension skills and vocabulary for our kids. So a little bit about each one of these 5. I'm going to start off by showing you what phonemic awareness and phonics looks like at the primary level. A lot of times people kind of intertwine those 2, which they should be intertwined, but you don't know what is the difference between phonemic awareness and what phonics is. So I'm actually going to show you a lesson. So the first lesson is a phonemic awareness lesson taught in our kindergarten classroom with Miss B. So I'll let you guys watch it.
Nice job. Right now we're going to do syllables, boys and girls. Remember, syllables are parts of a word. So I'm going to say some parts, then you're going to say the parts. We're going to put it together and say how many. Grasshopper. 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 3. Sharpen. 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 Construction. 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 3. Handle. 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 2. Photograph. 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 3. Slipper. 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 2. Strawberry. 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 3. Nice job. Ooh. Broken. 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 2. Nice job. Now we're going to punch out to find the ending sound. Miss B's going to give you 2 words, then you're going to punch them out and tell me the ending sound. Ready? Head, bed. Your turn. Head, bed. Bed. Ready? Bike, peak. Bike, peak. Good. Ready? Hard.
All right, I think that's where it stops. So if you've noticed a little bit about Miss B's lesson, you probably noticed she never showed a letter. She never showed any words at all. So phonemic awareness is actually the oral and auditory version of teaching students how to read. So the next component is phonics, and that's probably what you're more used to when we actually have letter cards and words in front of the students. And this is Mrs. Vickers teaching a phonics lesson.
Nice job.
You have to go to the next
Right
one.
now we're going to do syllables, boys and girls.
There we go. Might have to hit play.
All right, eyes are up here. Boys and girls, whenever you see those vowels, don't forget to do the motion, okay? Be careful for the people around you. Here we go. At the end of English words. F-E. Do better. You don't have to do what I say. I-N-N all up. Ooh, oh. Ow, oh. E-N-A. E-W-R-Z. Ew, you have not at the end of English words. Why English words do not end with you or...
Okay, so a little bit of routines. Obviously, you can tell this is what we do daily. So this is taken, probably these videos were towards the end of the year. Miss B's was from last year, Miss Vickers was a couple of years ago. But these are practices that if you've had students here in this room, your kids have experienced this. We have done this daily with your students every day, every year, because that's the basis of teaching emergent readers how to read. So a little bit about phonemic awareness and phonics, so you kind of have an idea what those two are. Moving on to fluency, it's more, most everyone understands what fluency is, just the ability to read quickly. Not only just reading words quickly, but also letters and letter sounds, being able to state those quickly also is a big part of fluency. And then we'll move on. Other way. comprehension. If you'll see to the left, this is an example of our one of our textbooks that we use within the primary. We really teach the strategy of close reading, which is where students read a text multiple times to try to find the evidence to help answer questions. Not only just a question on an assessment, but just questions out loud with the teachers to make sure that they are making inferences and being able to understand what the text is asking them to find out. So. And I know Mrs. Rainey and our elementary staff take this to a deeper level. So that's just something they really focus on, those upper elementary. Vocabulary is also a very important piece of teaching students how to read. If they don't have a rich vocabulary, they won't understand what they're reading to then be able to understand the comprehension behind it. I kind of put the example down below, like the examples of using context clues, prefixes, and suffixes. I mean, if they don't understand what that is, it's hard for them to be able to understand what they are reading and how to build on to the next level. So, okay, and the next, just some additional benefits of our literacy program. Mrs. Rainey's going to take over and kind of talk to you a little bit about our resources that we have at both buildings and how we utilize them in each day.
So I'm going to talk about benefit one, which is about small group and whole group instruction. We're doing both of these things at both the primary and the elementary. Whole group is obviously where we're focusing as the whole group of students. A lot of times you'll see them coming down to the carpet and teachers working from the smart boards, focusing on concepts that are important to the group as a whole, what we've set on our pacing calendar and what's according to the unit throughout the Wonder series, different in each grade level. Small group instruction, we give a lot of assessments throughout the school year, focusing on specific things, but our goal with small group instruction, this would be like tier 2 instruction with our students, really honing in on what they need, pulling those small groups. This is 6 students or less that's coming back to the table, really focusing on what their needs are, tracking progress, pulling data, doing progress monitoring, really looking to see if those benchmark assessments are progressing. It really leads conversations that we have in our CSI meetings, which are our intervention team meetings for students that are struggling, but also our conversations with parents at parent-teacher conferences or throughout the year if students, as they progress, or lack of progress. Collaborative learning, we do have opportunities for our students to work in small groups or in partnerships through the program. Our learning is interdisciplinary but also interconnected. So we do, most of our lessons and our focuses are tied to some kind of a science topic or a social studies topic. Third grade was just talking about cultures in their classrooms through the stories that they are learning in the book. We do have a hardback textbook. We have a companion book that students, like a workbook that they work in, but we also have online resources that our students utilize. A lot of what we're doing when we're talking about science and social studies concepts is bringing them to the floor and working through that together, really stretching that out. We have essential outcomes and questions that pose at the beginning of the unit to guide us through the rest of that. But it builds through our phonics, our grammar, and our vocabulary, and different genres that are taught through our Wonders program. Analytical reading and writing, as you can see here, we have a graphic organizer. What we're asking our students to do is to take those complex texts and do some complex activities. We want them to look for nonfiction text features when they're in the stories and categorize those over on graphic organizers or as they're working with a partner, really trying to sift through that vocabulary and make it meaningful in their reading and writing and carrying it over into other areas as well. Technology integration, as I was talking about earlier, we do have the technology piece. The last 2 years when we have been going through the pandemic, that technology piece has been vital for us. When we move to one-to-one technology, our students have a waffle. They click on the waffle and it brings up the program. And a lot of what we were doing for the last 2 years was through that technology piece. We are continuing to use that technology piece as we have evolved past some of that, what we were doing with one-to-one, still utilizing those resources in our classrooms, just trying to do some more hands-on related things as we've kind of moved past that pandemic era. Alignment, we are aligned to the standards, the Missouri Learning Standards. The questions and the passages and the things that are within Wonders are very map look-alike. It helps our students become familiar with what that looks like, what that test taking looks like, as well as the types of questions that they're going to be asked come the MAP. And I kind of wanted to share with you a little bit about MAP data. And I was able to pull clear back to 2017. Our proficient and advanced scores have been above the state average every year for ELA since 2017. Maybe before that too, but that was the data that I was able to pull. So that is an indicator that something is working for us here and giving our kids that early start on what the MAP test looks like and to help them practice those skills before we ever get to that point.
And then I was just going to focus on, I'm going to pass around a sheet. I don't know how updated you are on legislation, but there's been 2 huge mandates that have really focused on our age levels in reading over the last few years. House Bill 2379, and then the newest one that was just approved over the summer, Senate Bill 681. House Bill 2379 is that dyslexia model and that dyslexia bill that we're all required to follow. And I'm going to pass around just the guidelines that we're required to follow because of this House bill that was passed.
These are expectations even through our building. So we're starting at a kindergarten level through our building. So we're giving these same screeners to our third, fourth, and fifth grade students.
Is the same screener used in every district, or do districts get to choose? Is there a menu of choices for the districts?
So DESE has requirements, and you'll see that on the left side. So all of these items on the left side of your table are what we have to be able to monitor on a daily basis and screen. And so we are required to screen students 30 days after the first day of school on all of these items. And then any student who falls below benchmark in these areas, we have to notify parents. Usually that falls around parent-teacher conferences for us, and that's just a good time to kind of reflect with parents about those. But then we have to monitor those students continuously. Actually, you'll notice in some of this, it asks that you monitor them weekly, but of course, that's sometimes difficult to do depending upon the week, but we have to progress monitor, which just means retest or make sure we know where that student, where they are, on a very regular basis. And then the state also requires us to log the interventions that we're doing to help that student make the progress they need to make. And so a lot of data keeping, a lot of small group assessing, a lot of one-on-one assessing in our building, because we have to be able to prove to parents and to the students, as well as what the state requires us to do, that we're doing everything we can to help make sure our students are getting what they need to become readers. So
If we have students that enroll after that first 30 days of school, we have 30 days to assess them as well. So it's an ongoing practice throughout the school year.
And kind of a question I know Dr. Ross asked. So we've had Wonders, which is our reading program, is through McGraw-Hill for over 8 years now. And when the DESE House bill was signed, it was easy for us. It probably wasn't easy for a lot of other school districts, but it was easy for us because we looked through and we're like, yeah, we already do this, there wasn't, I think maybe one we had to add on, but other than that, all of these components we were already doing on a regular basis. So it wasn't anything I had to tell my teachers at the beginning of the year, okay, here's another thing we're doing. It is, hey, look what we're doing. The state's now realized that what we're doing is the right thing, and now everyone else is joining in and coming on board with us. So it's a good thing. The Senate Bill 681 is something new. It's not 100% approved, I guess, or outlined exactly.
It used to be referred to as the reading improvement plans. We had students through third grade that if they were indicated on their screener results, then we would need to put some things in place for them. It has now been changed to reading success plan, is what it's being called. Same practice, same things in place for our kids to help them be successful, to help them progress, but just a different area.
Yeah, among the unfunded mandates with no communication with DESE by state legislature, but we can pass some bills.
But the good thing is we already have small group instruction going on in every single one of our classrooms. We have pull-out tier 2 interventions for reading in both of our buildings, and we're already great at notifying parents what they need, and that's exactly what that Senate bill asked us to do. So again, nothing new we have to do, just have to tweak, I think, some data collecting procedures. They kind of want us to probably notify parents sooner than parent-teacher conferences, which we're doing now. That might be the only change we have to do. do in the years to come. But other than that, we're right along where we need to be. And that's great for our teachers and for our kids. So, do you have any questions?
So if a child screens and then you continue to see delays and then you suspect that it could be dyslexia, what are the steps that are taken?
So dyslexia is a medical term. It is not an educational, yes. So obviously we hand parents, it's a letter with all of the things checkmarked that we see delays, but then we tell them that our program will help their student. So we're not doctors, obviously we cannot diagnose that, but these are the items that we see that possibly could cause reading difficulties in your student. However, here's the list of things we're doing for your child each day. Give us some time, we'll be in contact with you to let you know, here's some things you can do at home, things like that. Dyslexia is definitely a very wide used term now, as it should be, because there's a lot of mandates in schools to follow for it. However, it's just not being at where you need to be reading-wise. Well, that's a lot of students who are emergent readers. They just need time, and we just need to help them along the way. So kind of that brain research that I showed you all earlier, just because your activity on the right side of your hemisphere that may not be active while reading doesn't mean you can't become a reader. It just means you need extra push along the way, and that's what we're going to do to help them. So they definitely can be readers. It just might take a slower track. So.
Well, and I think it speaks to the importance of early learning to have the kinesthetic opportunities to cross midline, to do a lot of gross motor that is helping to move and help other things shift back and forth between the right and left hemisphere. So that
which is why you saw Miss B doing punch out the final sound. Everything in our building involves moving, singing, saying, a lot of engaging strategies to keep kids active.
I will say some of our students that have a dyslexia diagnosis, an actual medical diagnosis, have moved on to receiving a 504 plan, so that we can put specific accommodations and modifications in place for what their needs are. So not always students with dyslexia diagnosis get a 504, but sometimes.
Does the district use a different benchmark testing, or is it actually part of Wonders?
We utilize Wonders because it's there for us.
It's already built into Wonders.
We do. We also adopted in kindergarten, and actually Early Childhood adopted it this year for kindergarten and first. It's called the Haggerty. It's a phonemic awareness program, which just is kind of a supplement to what we're currently using for Wonders. Again, we've used Wonders for the last 8 years and kind of saw that we needed more phonemic awareness time within our day. Even though Wonders had it, we wanted more because we know the importance of it. Research has told us we need to, add more. So we purchased another program. A lot of it with Educational Grant Foundation money. So thank you to those on the that committee who approved grants for our teachers to be able to purchase that program. And so we're using it pre-K through first grade.
We have a 6-year license in this program, and as you said before, we've done this for 8 years, so we're in the second phase of the second six-year license process.
It was hard for us when 6 years ended to try to determine if we wanted to go out and look for another series to follow. But again, what Mrs. Rainey said, our math scores, we have scored above the state average, and so our teachers approve of the program, enjoy teaching from the program, and our scores show that it is successful. So we're going to continue on until we deem otherwise. So.
I really like the interdisciplinary learning pieces too. That's great exposure for kids. That's great. Thank you.
Our buildings are great, have a great atmosphere and environment to be in. So if you ever want a place to spend the day, please come down. As some of you have been and even substituted. Pastor Todd. It's a fun place to be. So thank you guys.
Thank you guys.
Great info.
School safety. Tom?
Mr. Newman, run the clicker for me.
Mr. Newman's birthday.
Happy birthday, Mr. Newman. I'm so happy to be in a board meeting for your birthday.
And I wish I'd have went in front of those two. They're hard to follow those two, so I'll try and do my best. School safety is something that's always been a priority, but I think more recently it's really become it's received a lot more attention with good reason. So I think it's a good time to just give the board an update on our comprehensive school safety plan. And I want to thank Mr. Kemp. This is really a lot of Mr. Kemp's hard work. This is his slideshow. Unfortunately, he just couldn't be here. He's on supervision tonight, so I'm going to try and do my best and fill in for him. So one of the things that's really important when you talk about a comprehensive plan is find out where you are currently. We do some really good things, and I don't want to go through and just read all these. You've got this presentation, but really want to answer questions. So if you have questions, please feel free to answer those. But there are some things that we do really well. Friday, for example, during our training day, we actually went around, Mr. Kemp and I, and did some scenarios and training within the buildings. Thought it was very well received among our staff. And this not only includes intruder drills or active shooter drills, which receive a lot of attention, but really all of our emergency responses. So fire, tornado, earthquake, emergencies such as that. We also have some signs of suicide training at our secondary level. And I think that's extremely important for a comprehensive plan, is to not only talk about emergencies or threats that are right directly in front of you, but what are some of the causes of some of those things. So also we have some anti-bullying programs and then some active shooter training. And a new company that we've been discussing is called Strategos, which just enhances some of that intruder training. So I think some things we do really well with our bond. We upgraded security entrances to all of our buildings, which was a huge benefit to our staff that have been very well received. We're currently upgrading surveillance cameras throughout the district as well. We continue to maintain our SRO full-time within the district, which is a large positive. I think we have a very good relationship with current Oak Grove Police Department. They've been very active in the last few weeks especially, so we've got a good relationship there. Our staff, I think, is very much on board with keeping students and staff safe, and then ongoing training that's been constant. So I think we do some things very well. Some things that we want to continue to improve on. Consistency throughout our buildings. That's something that we've been working very closely on. Mr. Kemp has received training through MSBA, and he's a certified emergency specialist. And that's been very helpful to our district, and that's been a great resource. So one of the things that he and I have been working on is getting some consistencies throughout our buildings. Training for some of our part-time staff. We've started to include custodians, bus drivers we trained. We want to continue to make sure all of the staff members in our district are trained, especially subs, which that's one that is kind of hard to do. If you don't have a sub come in and start until the middle of the school year, how do we ensure that they're receiving that training so they know exactly how to respond in case of an emergency? And then updating procedures in our buildings. Those are constantly being updated. Procedures that we use, how we respond to emergency situations, that's constantly evolving and changing. We need to make sure that we're keeping up with those best practices. We mentioned some of our facility improvements, installation of what we call night locks or security measures to classroom doors. That's continuously ongoing. In our elementary school specifically, with new upgrades here, we're in the process of installing some additional safety features within the buildings. We did update campus lighting and, as I mentioned, those security cameras. So we are in the process of continuing to improve facilities. Our goals, really what we want to improve on mostly and what we're aiming for is just some of those things. Continuing training in our buildings, communication, I think is extremely important. You know, we tell our kids all the time, if you see something, say something. We like to have our community members involved in that too. A lot of times there's been situations that have come up and we wouldn't have known without the report of really patrons. So a big thank you to them, and I think our community really appreciates that. And just continually to meet with our partners. We've met with, I know, Oak Grove Police Department 3 times already this school year, just about plans that we have in place and safety measures. So that's kind of our goal. And then as far as the program summary, for your plan to truly be comprehensive, there's 10 areas that must be present. And Mr. Newman, if you want to go ahead and click one more. Those are summarized right there, the 10 essential areas. There's 1 through 5. I think some of these things we do very, very well, and some of these things we want to continue to improve on. Our ultimate goal is to have all 10 of these essential areas in place as soon as possible. Any questions that I can answer for you?
I was just thinking that last one, the what happens after an incident, is one of going through the incident, but how do you respond after? How do you use the trauma-informed lens as you're moving through each of those? And so I'll be interested to see as you're moving through how the recovery is written into the various responses.
Absolutely.
We're looking to industry to go, so you've already signed a contract with them.
They came out to the district a few weeks ago, met with Mrs. Hampton and Mr. Kemp, and went through.
We signed on with them to do, they're gonna come January, whatever that professional development day is, the first day after January, and they're gonna do 4 hours of training with staff. And it's similar to Alice, it's just a little bit different. So we just want to be able to give staff that walkthrough and that understanding to analyze all situations. And then they also have a piece that is an online training that we can then incorporate with our substitute teachers, which was a big piece that we like. So that when we have a new sub that gets hired, we can email them that and require them to watch it before they can substitute as well. So we're just excited. Alice is a great program, so it's nothing against, it's just another lens to look through, and another idea of scope and sequence and how we can operate as well.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Kind of on this subject here, I will just kind of, one thing, this as an idea, one thing that we're kind of behind the times in for Oak Grove is access control. And that's something that just living in like a physical key world, because a lot of districts our size don't. I mean, it's something that your badge is basically what gets you into every exterior door in a building. And that way it makes a log to know who's badged in, and then that way like you can actually control when doors are truly locked. And so it's just
And
something
that piece and security, Ryan and I have talked quite a bit, and like there's so many different old security, new security that don't meet together, don't match together. So that would definitely probably be something if we have a bond issue that we would talk about updating some security from the key list to security systems, alarms, and being able to update some of those systems. It'd be really, really nice on that security piece to have the badge entry to be able to know who's in your building, but then also for our administrators, when an alarm goes off or that could be all in one system, accessible on your phone, so they can look at that from anywhere.
it is nice because then you can actually set up like schedules on your doors where if you do have, Little League basketball coming in at the evening, well then the doors can be unlocked, from that remote site, done, scheduled, and that way custodians aren't having to mess with toggling a door. I mean, it's a big safety issue, and it is nice.
Thanks, Bob.
Yep. All right, so we'll let Laura go first.
I kind of want to utilize my time to tell you about a new initiative we're starting at the primary. We have found a need to help students in how to learn how to self-regulate themselves. If you know a little bit about self-regulation, it's kind of like the air conditioning in your body. So when you feel a little off, like for me, I talk to my staff about it. Food, is something really big for me. If I haven't had something to eat, then I'm going to be a little bit off. But for students, it's not just that. Sometimes it is the bright lights, it is the loud noises, it is the feeling of just feeling their body to be a little bit off. And so we have started collecting items and doing a lot of research in our building, and we have put together, it's initially called just a sensory room for all students, all 450 of our students if they would need it, just a place to go to for whatever time that they need to try to get themselves back self-regulated, so maybe they can go back in their classroom and sit for the 30-minute lesson that's coming about, or to take that math test that they're stressed about. So it's just kind of like an out for these students to try to get themselves back into feeling okay again to be able to join back into their classroom. So it's definitely a lot of new learning for all of us, including myself. We're doing a lot of reading and just discussing, because our classroom teachers need to kind of figure out and be able to pinpoint what kids need what, because sometimes they may not be able to verbalize, and you may think it's a behavior. Is it really a behavior? Is it really we need to give them a moment to either check out and go sit in a dark tent, or maybe they need to jump on a trampoline? It's the complete opposite. Or maybe they need that vestibule of being able to swing in a swing or something like that to get their bodies back. Or maybe it's just water that they need to drink. So we're going through a lot of training ourselves just to figure out what kids need and kind of be able to help direct them in the right path for that. So thankfully, I've had a lot of teachers donate a lot of items to this room already, so it is well already prepared for us. And we spent Friday at our PD day kind of talking about it, and we kind of opened it this week. And we have some students that are already utilizing it and have been able to go back into their classroom and been beneficial already. So just another intervention. It's open for all kids, and we'll just see how it goes. And I'll report back throughout the rest of this year and kind of let you guys know how it's going. So, and if anybody's an expert in that area, that would be great too, if you know of anyone. So.
I heard you give a great presentation on what's happening.
Yeah. There you go. All right. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Just have two quick things. So the elementary has been under renovation for most of last year, and we are near finishing up. So excited about that. But they have come back a few more times to do some things. The canopy in the very front of the building is a work in progress. They did work on that this weekend. Still have some pieces that are not there and have had to be ordered. So there are a few pieces on the staircase that are also in waiting. But if you haven't been in our building since all of this has happened, you should stop by, because it is a totally different place than it was last year. On Thursday, we have the ice cream social that the PTO is putting on, and to introduce our new superintendent. But we're looking forward to the community coming into our school and seeing the great things that have happened. Our parents have already been there with open house and meet the teacher night, so we had lots of oohs and ahs, and I can't believe this school looks like this, and look how wide the hallways are, and those classrooms look great from our parents. So we're excited to have the community come in and see the great things that have happened too. If we've had grandparents in the building that have said things like, well, I remember when I went to high school here, I remember when I went to middle school here, and it didn't look anything like this. So it is a great change. It is very elementary for us. We do have some things in the future that we're still working on, some more painting, some accent around the doors that I think will continue to help that have that elementary feel in our building. The second thing is we are working with the RPDC out of Kansas City and out of Warrensburg, and bringing someone on site for specifically in the curricular area of math to work with our teachers on our pacing calendars, aligning us to the standards, making sure that we have things in place to try to help, because we know that across the state, math scores in math have been dropping across the pandemic time. And we want to put some things in place to try to help our school district continue to move forward in the area of math. So we had someone come from the RPDC last week to work with our 5th grade teachers. We have 2 teachers from each grade level that are on the vertical team for math. And so they worked with our new instructional coach, Kendra Gasson, and this person from the RPDC, Shay Thomas, and another person that she brought with her from the RPDC to really line that out. And then our 3rd grade teachers and our 4th grade teachers are going to be doing that this week to work on their pacing calendars and look for the gaps and the holes in curriculum to try to help us as we prepare for math at the end of the school year. After we have finished that with math, our goal is to move on to ELA and make sure that we are covering any holes that might be there, and then science after that. Any questions?
What does RPDC stand for?
It's a Regional Professional Development Center, and we do have memberships. Your district signs up for memberships, pays for memberships, and we have them both in the Kansas City one and in the Warrensburg one. So we do have lots of resources at our fingertips. When you're a member of those, you get lots of free access to great people and great resources. So we're excited to have them come on campus. They're actually going to come in November as well to our PD day and work with our K-5 teachers, specifically in math. So, thank you.
Skip you, Michelle.
Well, I didn't know I was going to be doing this today. But, there you go. I'll go anyway. We are going to be starting our new students October 3rd, and we are officially full and have a waiting list, which is the earliest we've ever had this happen. We're working on trying to get a grant, possibly. I've been working with Dr. Ross on that a little bit, so we can maybe get a grant to maybe open up another classroom, because we are in need. I mean, every screening that we have, I mean, parents are calling daily, and I'm like, oh my goodness, like, we don't have any room. So we're trying to figure out some things and trying to get some other things to maybe utilize the outside area a little bit more with some canopies and stuff like that. So that is where we're at on that, and we've had a lot of family nights and stuff like that, and a lot of fun in our building, and it's been fun. I started punching out letters today with my kids, so we started the Haggerty today. So it's been fun with that, and the kids have been really receptive to that, so.
Great. I think one of the biggest benefits of the early childhood and primary being together has been our last few PD days. Early childhood has obviously joined us in on all of our trainings. So it's definitely a cohesive unit. So it's been a great move.
It's been going good.
Yeah, it's been great.
Mr. Selman?
Nobody from middle school here. Mr. Newman and I and the faculty and staff at the high school have been working on some serious topics with our students. We've had some incidents that I'm sure that you know about recently, and so we've been working hand in hand with OGPD and some other areas to bring everybody up to speed on some of those issues that have been happening. We have some training that we did on Alice through our PD day last week. Tough conversations to have among our students, or among our faculty members, because student safety is top priority, and we have to know what to do in these types of situations. But as I've told them several times, none of us know exactly how we'll react in an emergency situation. But to have the opportunity to have multiple responses to that is what we're after. So we appreciate Mr. Kemp and Mr. Huffington coming and talking with us through a couple of different scenarios. And then we broke into groups and went to different classrooms throughout the building, especially with the new folks that we have on board with us this year. They haven't seen much outside of their regular classroom, so they moved to some different areas to further develop the training that they've been going through with that. Mental health is always a big topic as well. We are doing our Signs of Suicide program tomorrow with our students. Mr. Huffington mentioned that in the plan that you saw earlier. We do have all of our district counselors who will be helping with that, but we also have 3 or 4 members of comprehensive mental health who come in and help with that, along with David Foster, our school psychologist, and that's where the program came from through our combat grant. So again, tough topics to discuss with our students tomorrow, but definitely something that they need to know, and then continue with that, see something, say something, especially when it's about their friends. If they have any concerns, where they can go and how they can report that information. We have athletics and activities in full swing. I won't step on any toes with Mr. Selke. I'll let him discuss those. We do have homecoming right around the corner. And then the other big event for the high school in October is the week of the 24th is our College and Career Readiness Week. On that week, we have our College and Career Fair. I believe that's Wednesday of that week from 9:30 to 11. So we'll have all of our students go through the College and Career Fair. The counselors told me today that we have 45 colleges and or universities and some career-related fields who are coming to that at this particular point. That number will probably grow in the next couple of weeks before we get to that point. College and Career Readiness Day is actually the next day, the 27th. That's our half day that we have. That's where we give presentations to our freshman class from people like KC Scholars. Our CTC comes in, the CIC from Blue Springs comes in, Early Outreach from Northwest Missouri State University. They all come in and give presentations to our freshmen so that they can start thinking about next steps for them. The sophomore class takes the pre-ACT so that they can get a gauge on how they will score on the actual ACT. The junior class takes the Asvab, which many people automatically think military. Yes, the military does use the Asvab, but it's also a vocational-based test to test the skills for the students to see what vocation might be in their future, where their skills lead them. And then our seniors, we give a couple of different options One, they can take a college visit to a college, university, or a trade school program that they might be interested in seeing. They can do a job shadow. They already know that they're going into the workforce, or they think, hey, I kind of like this, but maybe I ought to go see what's up with that. And then they can also stay and take the Asvab. Most of them have taken it as a junior, but especially if they're thinking of the military, they have the opportunity to take it again to increase the score that they earned the first time that they took it. And then, of course, that evening, we will have our parent-teacher conferences, but we also have our FAFSA Frenzy for all of our seniors and their families from 4 to 6 with the counselors that night. Mr. Newman, what am I missing?
I don't think anything.
Yeah, and then we take the day off on the 28th, so that's always a good piece of college and career readiness too. Right, so, questions about the high school?
Have you ever used the Agile profile that the Bruce Foundation put out?
Since I've never heard of it, I'm going to say no.
Well, it's here local, and the reason I ask is because Casey Scholars is connected to it, but at the end, it also then talks about higher ed opportunities based on the results similar. Anybody can take it. But it's an interesting tool because it's connected. It's a little
I wonder
more
if it's
local.
similar to Missouri Connections, because they do a couple of different assessments through
Yeah,
Missouri
I'm
Connections
not
as
sure.
well. And we'll have to check.
Might just be something just interesting to look at since it has that
Right.
higher ed connector.
Right, that'd be great. Okay, thank you.
Mr. Silky, anything specific about homecoming or?
No, homecoming next Wednesday we'll be going back to traditional tailgate by the Booster Club out front of the high school, 5 to 7. At 7 we'll have the pep rally back in the high school gym, 7 to 8, and then at 8 o'clock we'll have the bonfire back out in the front of the high school, so go back to that traditional setup. Parade, same thing, 1:30 parade, Wall of Fame induction in the middle school commons at 4 o'clock, then football game at 7. So back to the traditional homecoming. All the home games have been very packed this year. It's been awesome to have big crowds back for sure. So besides that, we're hosting district softball October 11th, 12th, and 13th at Webb Park. So we got to host that. Volleyball will be at Odessa. Soccer will be at Center. I don't think cross country has come out yet on where that district will be. So finalizing some winter things now and starting to, fall goes by really, really quick. So big week next week with Spirit Days and everything going on for homecoming. So.
Very good.
Thank you.
And just a couple updates. Thursday night, PTO is sponsoring the ice cream social, as Misty mentioned, to see the new elementary. If anybody's interested we have Lake Skillet Days this weekend on Saturday morning at 10 a.m. I'll be sitting in the dunk booth. If anybody wants to take a shot, they're welcome to. And then we have scheduled, out of all the incidences the last couple of weeks, we have scheduled a community awareness night October 12th. So we've got a lot of different agencies that have reached out and want to help. So we're put them to use and going to utilize them. We have an impact panel of former addicts, and we also have an impact panel of parents of children who have passed away from opioid addiction or abuse. So I'm hoping that it's impactful and important for parents to come, but as well as just a lot of community resources, county resources for mental health, drug abuse, a variety of things. With the media coverage, a couple of good things came out of it regarding some information and some resources for the community night, as well as the Narcan. So our district does now supply, we have a board policy for Narcan. We now have Narcan in all the buildings in case needed. And then AED machines, we did get 2 AED machines, new ones, one for the concession stand and one for the PAC. So we have both those on site as well.
Could I add to that real quick? Sorry,
Yes.
I did forget. On October 14th, we have OGPD in conjunction with Dr. Terry Chance. If those of you who remember, Landon graduated last year. Emmett's in the middle school this year. He's going to come in and address the students on some of the drug awareness as well, and then in conjunction with OGPD. So.
That's it.
Any comments? Seeing nothing else on the agenda, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So
I will-
moved.
Thank you, Joe.
I will second that.
Thank you, Joe. being here.
Thanks, everybody. Appreciate it.